Hey, it's Chad. We're gonna move on to our seated work on our mini Waff. Okay, so you can work with one or two minis. For this particular segment, I'm just gonna work with one mini. I'm gonna talk about where your center of gravity goes and take you through a couple of basic exercises that you can work with at home. Okay, so here we go, getting on to our single mini. Back a little bit further so you can see my whole body here. Okay, so the center column, I can get used to just sitting on the center column upright, trying to lift the spine up nice and tall. Sitting on the mini allows my hips to make the adjustment very freely because they're not locked to the ground. Sitting up nice and tall. When I get comfortable sitting up nice and tall, I can make this a little bit more challenging by taking my hands off my legs and just trying to control the position by stabilization of my pelvis. Again, on Waffs, I'm never trying to be perfectly still. I'm not trying to lock myself in place and not move. I like the Waff to give me feedback and allow these subtle changes to happen. The progression from here, this very basic, as I would take my hands back down, I'm going to lift up onto the heels and I'm going to just keep my toes up off the ground, get used to that sensation, and then take my hands off again. Again, allowing for an internal feedback loop to begin and allow my body to make its adjustments by taking a little bit more of my body away from the ground. Okay, great. Now we take the toes down. I'm going to shift my hips forward slightly. Hands on my shins. I'm going to lift up nice and tall. Now I'm just slightly forward of the center column, and then I'm going to lean back. What's called, in traditional exercise, we call these a V-sit, which is where your back is perfectly straight. You're leaning back, so now my front body, or the anterior body, is now flexing to keep me from falling backwards. From here, once I feel like I'm stable, here with my hands on my legs, I'll take my hands off my legs, reaching up, keeping my head back in line with my spine. It's normal, there's a tendency to want to put the head forward. What also tends to happen is that you then want to round your back when that happens, and you would like neither of those things to happen. So you're going to keep your hands, when you set up, that's why your hands are on your shin, so that your back is straight as you come back, your head is in line with your spine, and your hands are going to go up. And then just like before, we're going to progress that by flexing your toes up into the air, keeping your knees and toes pointed in the same direction, and just holding that V-sit position. Great way to activate the anterior chain, or the core, without doing a lot of spinal movement. Just being on the Waff provides enough instability to start all those stabilizing muscles to participate in the basic seated position. Hands come down, you'll lift yourself up and drop your toes down. Okay, so again, like with all things on a Waff, ideally your eyes are going to be at horizon line, and you're going to keep your eyes open, at least at the beginning, for your initial sensitization. I'm going to use a second Waff now. I'm going to come forward a little bit so you can see this one. I'm going to use a second Waff. We're going to go with that exact same sequence again, but we're going to use the second Waff underneath our feet, which is going to change. You're going to see my body's going to move quite a bit more than it did the first round. So first I start seated up. I have my second Waff positioned about the distance I need if I were putting my feet on the ground, but this time I'm going to put my feet up on the Waff. And you're going to see I'm going to have a lot more motion than even I had before. So now I'm just getting used to stabilizing on the Waff with both my feet and my hips up off the ground. I lift up nice and tall. I take my hands forward. I'm pulling my abdomen toward my lumbar spine. I'm not trying to control the Waff. I'm just engaging the center part, the central column of my body by pulling my abdomen toward my spine, keeping my neck in line. The sequence I use is the chin goes back, and that allows my chest to stay elevated. I don't want to lift my chest before my chin. I want to put my chin back and just allow that to give my chest a vertical motion. Okay, so I'm always trying to be long and strong. So here we are. Now the next option is I can go to the same flexed foot position that we did before. So I have a little less foot contact to the Waff than I did before. And you can see I'm doing a lot more motion. This is the entire purpose of putting the heels on the mini Waff. Awesome. Okay, I put my feet back to flat. Hands back on again, and I'm going to set up for my V angle. So I'm going to bring my hips just slightly forward of the central column of the Waff. I'm going to lean back, flat back. My chin is back. To get started without any variations, I'm just going to take my hands up and off. Okay, so I have a little bit more play in the motion than I did on the first round. And then again, I can go to the same second position, which is the toes elevated and flexed. This is a lot more challenging than it looks, so when you get on your Waff, or if you're doing it with me, you can obviously, you will be feeling for yourself, this is a lot of muscle engagement just to hold the basic seated position. It's also really great for the hip flexors. A lot of people are very concerned that because they have tight hip flexors that they should avoid things where their hip flexors are contracting. And I would definitely not advise that as a strategy. But there's more on that later, so check into another fitness scientist post about hip flexor engagement. But that's a good intro to some basic central column or core work on your mini Waff.